All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. Our number, 205-386-3228, 205-386-3228. Love that song. Right now, on the line, ladies and gentlemen, we have my good friend Connor, who's out in Hillsdale College to discuss this whole gun control debate. Connor, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So, have you read these executive orders that President Obama is issuing?
I did. I've seen them. I actually looked through all 23 of them briefly. I don't see how they're going to solve any issue at all. And, of course, they're unconstitutional.
They are unconstitutional, but this never stopped the president before.
Nope.
And I agree with you. It's not going to do any... Do you agree with me for the most part that President Obama, I think, cares more about putting more restrictions on people like you and me, law-abiding citizens, and he's not taking the steps to prevent crime from real people who are going to commit violent crimes?
Exactly. I mean, if you were to ban guns, take, for example, two of the most dangerous cities in America right now, Washington, D.C. and Chicago. They have some of the most severe gun restrictions. I believe in D.C. you're not even allowed to carry a handgun at all. In D.C., where President Obama currently resides, along with a few other politicians, you cannot carry a gun. And the crime rate in Washington, D.C. is incredibly high. The homicide rate is ridiculous.
Same with Chicago.
Chicago, it's even
We
worse.
just said that at the same time.
Yep. And, I mean, Chicago, you had 500 murders in the city of Chicago in 2012. That's more people killed in Chicago than soldiers in Afghanistan in the past year.
Mm-hmm.
That is ridiculous. 500 murders because Chicago has incredibly ridiculous, that's draconian restrictions on handguns and all types of guns for that matter. Because if you take the guns away from law-abiding citizens, they're still going to obey the law.
Right.
Criminals are not going to obey the law. They'll just get a gun on the black market and they'll just kill people and rob and steal anyways. That's not going to stop them.
Right. Now, the AR-15, I believe is what it's called, that's one of the guns that the left wing loves to talk about and they love to try to ban. But there's no difference from what I've read. I've researched this topic, and there's no difference between that and a hunting rifle. I mean, they perform the same. So what's that all about?
Yeah, and you know what the thing is, too? I don't know a heck of a lot about guns, but look at it this way. If you have, say, a gun that can hold 30 rounds, which is what everyone's panicking about, you know, an automatic gun that can hold 30 rounds, it shoots 30 bullets, it can kill a lot of people. Fine. Yeah, it's dangerous, but guess what? Responsible people aren't going to do that. It's crazy, insane people who do that.
Right.
If you have a gun that shoots, say, 10 rounds, a guy can go into anywhere where he chooses, a school, a mall, wherever he wants to kill a lot of people, and he can reload his gun rather quickly if he's experienced. And he can get off 30 rounds just as easily as a gun that doesn't need reloading. It's like Michael Bloomberg's policy in New York with the drink ban. You know, he banned the 16-ounce drinks or whatever it was, but that's not going to prevent people from getting, say, 2 12-ounce drinks.
Right.
You know, you may ban something, but there's always a way to circumvent the ban.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not going to save lives. And unfortunately, people always think that whenever there's a mass shooting, like the massacre at Newtown, that it's a gun problem. No, it's not a gun problem. It's a people problem. Right. It's something wrong with the person who did it.
Exactly.
They're evil, and a lot of times part of them, they have a mental illness of some sort. But for the most part, it's evil. And, you know, unfortunately, there's only so much you can do to prevent it. Now, background checks I'm fine with. But if you're going to ban all guns, first of all, you can't do that in the Constitution. If you want to pass an amendment saying that you want to get rid of the Second Amendment, you want to repeal, or not repeal, if you just want to completely wipe out the Second Amendment, try to pass another amendment. That's the process we have, but good luck, it's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what is it? You need 2/3 in each in the House and 2/3 in the Senate, and then 3/4 of the states to pass a new amendment. I think something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that wouldn't be a very easy thing to do because the Bill of Rights. I mean, those are some of those. The founding fathers did not see those rights coming from man; they saw them coming from God.
Right.
and nature is God. It's their natural rights. I mean, John Locke, when he discusses natural rights, who was a major influence on the Founding Fathers when they wrote the Declaration and Constitution and the Bill of Rights, you have the right to life, liberty, and property. But, I mean, also, to do with property, you have the right to defend that property. If someone wants to take away your property, you have the right to defend it. It is yours. You earned it.
Right.
And unfortunately, there are criminals out there who want to take your property and, at times, want to take your life.
Right.
So you have the right to defend yourself. You can own a gun.
Right. The problem, I think, and this is, I think, where Obama and the politicians in White House are getting confused. The problem is not the guns. The guns aren't the problem. The people are the problems. And President Obama he's going after the guns, making them more difficult to obtain, thinking that that's the problem. Instead, he should be taking steps to prevent people from doing things like this. Would you agree?
Exactly. But believe me, the government always thinks whether or not they are, they have good intentions, which I don't always believe they do, still can't do it. I mean, Andrew Napolitano, I read an article by him, I actually have it in front of me right now, but a great article about, and this guy knows the Constitution. But basically, he says, and this is a direct quote, the areas of health, safety, welfare, and morality are not delegated to the feds and were retained by the states. That is true. Mm-hmm. It is an issue that has to be left up to the states, and even then, the state constitutions cannot take away your guns. They can't do that. They'd have to pass a lot of legislation, and a lot of people are not going to support it.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. This is something that I've been wondering about myself. Do you think that, I know President Obama is suggesting an assault weapons ban. Do you think that there's any possibility of this escalating over the years and maybe going from assault weapons at first, and then when they see that there's still more violence going on, they're going to say, okay, well, maybe we should do all pistols. Do you think there's a chance that this will escalate?
Well, it could. And by the way, contrary to what people think, school shootings have been going down. Granted, Newtown was a major exception, but it's not like school shootings happen all that often.
That's true.
They are going down. I mean, if you arm your teachers, like I know a school district in Texas does, they never have any problems. I know Utah currently is training their teachers for concealed carry permits. Mm-hmm. They're going to be safe as well. Connecticut is one of the most strict states when it comes to guns.
Right.
And unfortunately, nothing could be done to stop this guy in Newtown.
Right.
And the same thing with Chicago, as I mentioned before. Chicago has bans on practically everything.
Well, plus look at Hartford in Connecticut.
Yes, yeah. Connecticut as a whole state, and if you want to go to specific places, we're all gun-free zones. Would it make sense for a guy with a gun to go to, a place, a gun show, for example? Mm-hmm. A guy is not going to start shooting up a gun show. Why? Well, I don't know. There are a lot of people there with guns.
Right.
If you're going to, it'd be much easier to go to a gun-free zone, such as, or even James Holmes, the guy who killed those people in Colorado. That movie theater was a gun-free zone.
Right.
So it wouldn't surprise me if the federal government tries to get more involved. When don't they try to get more involved?
Right.
There are handgun bans in cities with high crime. I mean, there's always a correlation between banning guns and high crime. England's another great example.
And Australia.
Handguns. Yeah, Australia as well.
All right. I listed off 3 personal suggestions of what President Obama should have done in order to go after the criminals and not necessarily the guns. And I want to go through each of the 3 of them briefly, and I want to see if you agree with me. The first one that I said is that he should enact more severe punishment for these criminals. If they commit a crime that has to do with a gun, maybe have longer sentences in jails, maybe do something with their voting rights. Would you think that's a good solution, more severe punishments for these criminals?
I agree with the basic premise. However, I disagree with the fact that the federal government should do it. I don't think the federal government should do anything about this. Mm-hmm. I think it's up to the states. And honestly, you look at the states with the lower crime, they obviously know what they're doing in regards to guns. Illinois, specifically Chicago, has incredibly high crime rate. 500 murders in one city in 1 year is outrageous. And it's scary, too. It's very scary. That should be left up to the states, honestly. If they want to severely punish criminals who are caught with guns that they shouldn't have if they didn't pass background checks, sure. I mean, honestly, too, another thing you just a lot of it starts with the family as well.
Right.
I don't want to delve too deep into that.
Well, I'm going to be going into that actually after the commercial break. It's funny you bring that up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The next suggestion I had quickly is eliminating gun-free zones. What do you think?
Eliminating gun-free zones? That'd be great. Again, I don't really think it's in the federal government's power. A lot of there are whole states that, you could basically consider gun-free zones, such as our home state of Connecticut. But there are some companies that, movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, I forgot the name of the theater, they're a gun-free zone.
Right.
So it's up to businesses to make the right decision. And I hate to say it, suffer the consequences if they're going to be a gun-free zone. A gun-free zone is going to be targeted. I think that's common sense.
Right.
If the shooters are cowards. They're not going to go where there are a lot
exactly.
of guns.
They see it as a target.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good option too. The third one I had is arming teachers. What do you think about that?
Arming teachers, yeah, that's what I was talking about before.
I mean, they do it in Israel.
I think it's a great. They do, and Israel they keep their students very safe, considering that those schools can get bombed and attacked at any moment by the Palestinians or any of their other enemies. Utah's doing it right now, and you don't really hear about any big school shootings in Utah. I mean, it's going to happen where there are the most strict gun laws. I mean, some people might think, oh, well, yeah, banning all guns, they'll keep people safe. No, it won't. It just takes away the guns from the people who actually will give them up according to the law.
Right.
A lot of people don't follow the law. They're
right.
called criminals.
Exactly.
Lawbreakers.
Exactly.
That's not going to stop them at all.
Exactly. And, we've gotten some, I brought up arming teachers before, and we've gotten some opposition saying that, well, the teacher's job is to teach, and they're not necessarily, police officers. But I think that if you had a school where the teachers were armed, a criminal walking into that school who intended on killing many kids would be much more hesitant to do it if he knew that the teachers were armed. Don't you think that's a reasonable solution?
That is true, and also, a teacher may not be a cop, but a cop's not going to get there in time.
That's true.
You can call the cops. It could take the cop, maybe at best 5 minutes, but you know how much damage can be done in 5 minutes?
That's true.
By a crazed killer?
Yep.
He could kill an awful lot of people,
yep.
and that's unacceptable. You can't depend on the police for everything, and you can't keep just putting cops in schools, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an additional expense, plus cops are needed elsewhere. And honestly, if it's just one cop, that can't predict.
Well, wait. Let me interrupt you. Obama wants to put resource officers. Just get it right. It's not cops. It's resource officers. Okay, I'm just clearing that up.
Well, yeah, resource officers, fine. You're not gonna.
Connor, what the hell is a resource officer anyway? Do you know?
You could look it up. I'm sure. I mean, a resource officer. Honestly, it could also be someone just to help people cope with things, because the people with mental illness they may be more closely watched now after this Adam Lanza guy. But I mean, honestly, if you arm the teachers and make sure when you arm them, obviously you have to give them a background check, but don't force them to, but encourage it, because honestly, a teacher, when their students are in the classroom, the teacher is responsible for their well-being.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we practice lockdowns.
And you know what? If you're going to trust your teacher with what they teach your students, you should be able to trust them with your kids' lives.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the case is that teachers, they have to care. Unfortunately, there are guys who will go into schools and kill kids, high schools and now elementary schools. It's very unfortunate, but unfortunately, it's not going to stop. There are evil people in this world. They're going to target people who are easy targets. And
right.
A gun-free zone is an easy target no matter where it is.
Right. All right, Connor, always a pleasure. I want to thank you for calling to the program tonight.
All right, thank you.
Yep, have a good night. That was Connor Mullen, folks, my old co-host from the Junior Factor. He comes on frequently. It's always great to talk to him. Connor Thank you very much again, folks. We'll be right back, and when we do come back after the break, we'll listen to the words of God. I mean, Obama, I'm sorry. Back in a minute.